Well, we're going to turn now to a neurological disorder that affects millions of children. According to the CDC, nearly 9% of American children ages 3 to 17 have been diagnosed with ADHD.
And our next guest, is actress, author, TV host, and all around just a favorite of ours. Holly Robinson Peete is here to bring much needed attention to neurodiversity among children. Thank you. It is so good to see you. How have you been?
I've been great. It's always good to hang out with you guys.
All right. Well, let's start here with the definition here. People aren't familiar. When we talk neurodiversity, the idea is simply that I guess we often too often want to consider a brain as deficient or not working properly instead of just seeing as brains being different. So give us the right definition here when we talk neurodiversity.
No, it's as simple as we process things differently. We all process things differently. And neurodiversity and neurodevelopmental disorders really are just about, let's all talk about how we can process things together and be patient with each other.
Well, and Holly, we have Dr. Jen here, and I know you pretty much probably could have an MD in this as well. But tell us, Dr. Jen, what are some of the signs and symptoms we as parents should look out for in children with ADHD?
Well, first of all, we have to divide this up between the hyperactivity and the inattentive style. And there's a whole list of signs and symptoms there. Usually you have to have one or more of these that occur at home or at school. But take a look at this list. So if you're talking about the inattention variant, having trouble paying attention during tasks, often not listening to or carrying out instructions, making careless mistakes, constantly changing one's activity or task. Again, to some extent, this can be normal for children, but in other cases, it really crosses a line to being excessive. And then when you talk about the hyperactivity type, you're talking about being unable to sit still, especially in calm or quiet environments or surroundings, interrupting conversations on a regular basis, constantly fidgeting, and excessive physical movement and talking. And I just want to highlight, because I have a young adult child with ADD, these children then grow up to be adults. So you can continue to see some of these features in adults that just haven't been diagnosed. Remember, we're much more aware of it, thankfully, right now, but this is not a new disorder. So there are adults 40s, 50s, and older with a lot of these features, and they just haven't been diagnosed yet.
And Holly, your daughter has ADHD, son, autism. How do we, and how have you, with this campaign now and having these conversations, want to shape this conversation and amplify this conversation?
Well, we want to shatter the stigma that living with ADHD is a disability. Just change the conversation. And I'm partnering with Supernus Pharmaceuticals today to talk about my family's experience with ADHD and the neurodiversity that exists in our society. And so I wanted to get out here and to create a little bit more awareness. Sometimes that, redirecting her, the spaciness, the inability to follow through on tasks was just a stressful thing for her, especially being a young girl, trying to have relationships at school. It was tough, and she couldn't help it, and I didn't know it.
Holly,
no, sorry. One thing that Holly said that I think is so important is dropping that stigma. One ADHD expert said to me when I was getting my child diagnosed that it's like having your brain has a Ferrari engine with bicycle brakes. So it's just that they work differently. It's not better or worse. It's just a different way of functioning.
And I was going to ask Holly, just as a mother, any advice for other parents out there who are struggling right now with children in this same category?
I would just say to keep your eyes open. And sometimes, we as parents are so busy moving through life, doing everything, being everything to everybody, that we miss these signs. But I think sometimes if you see your child is really struggling to complete tasks, for instance, I used to ask Ryan to clean her room at least 60 times a day, right? And she could not process it. And so sometimes we'll look up and go, oh, she's just lazy, or she's just messy, or, we start to label our kids. But oftentimes there's a disorder like ADHD that they may have that really absolutely keeps them from doing things that normal or neurotypical children can do. And so I just missed the signs, Amy. So I feel a little bit guilty, I have to say that, because I was so busy with the squeaky wheel of autism and advocating. So I would just say keep your eyes open, talk to your kids about what they're experiencing, how they process things, and just listen to them.
You know what, to her point, and you're speaking on it there, you felt a little guilty, right? Continue to talk to parents here for a second, because I imagine some parents, they want to ignore, they want to assume maybe their child is just not listening. They don't want to assume that maybe something might be off or wrong. So how did you get to that point and past, I guess, that guilt that you're still speaking of?
Just getting Ryan help and being able to see how she's thriving now, because she understands that she has this disorder, and she, you know, it came, or the diagnosis came right before she went to college. So she looked at a college that was ADHD friendly, if you will, where sometimes you have to have the SATs, and she struggled with testing. So, you know, I just, you know, listen, I drank a lot of wine. I felt guilty. You know, that happens. And, you know, listen, it's just, as a mom, we're just doing the best we can, right? And I just felt like I was so busy advocating for her twin brother, and she's such a super sister, always there for her brother with autism, and has just been an amazing sibling. So now it's her turn to thrive and go through life, and she's really doing very well now.
Holly, you are a super
mom. And I'm not drinking much wine. I don't want anybody to worry about me. I'm not drinking as much wine now.
Oh, please.
What time is it?
You are preaching to the choir, and mom guilt is a universal thing. We all have it, but you are advocating for her and for so many other children out there. So thank you for all you're doing. Holly Robinson Peete, thank you. And thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability. We appreciate it.
Love you guys.
She said as much wine. It's all relative, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that could.
So great that she's bringing that to the forefront.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.